Okay.
Okay. All right, so the bones of the skull include the 14 facial bones and then the 8 cranial bones. We'll start with the facial bones. So we've got the frontal bone, we've got the zygomatic bone, the lacrimal ethmoid bone, the nasal bones, the maxilla, the vomer, and the mandible. And we talk about the bones of the neurocranium or brain case. We have the frontal bone, parietal bone, temporal bone, occipital bone, sphenoid bone, and ethmoid bone. We've got several sutures which are connecting the bones together. We have the coronal suture, sagittal suture, and then the lambdoid suture there. And then we also have underneath, we've got the vomer, which you find right here. So this makes up what's called the hard palate along with the roof of the maxilla. There are several foramen that I want you to know about. So foramen are holes for things to enter or leave the brain. This large one here, this is the foramen magnum, or magnum foramen. Both are technically grammatically correct in Latin. This is the opening for the spinal cord. We then have the jugular foramen. The jugular foramen is the opening for the jugular vein. And then directly next to it, right here, this is the carotid foramen, which is for the carotid artery. Okay? So we've got the sphenoid here, we got the ethmoid bone that we see here, we got the palatine bone. Here in the nose, we've got the vomer. Vomer divides into the left and right septum. We've got the superior, middle, and inferior nasal concha. Up here at the top of the ethmoid bone, this is called the cribriform plate and the crista galli. This helps kind of solidify and strengthen together. Sphenoid bone, as you may remember, we talked about, the sphenoid bone is often called the keystone bone because if you see here, the ethmoid bone, the frontal bone, the parietal bone, the temporal bone, the occipital bone, the maxilla, the zygomatic bone is all connected to the sphenoid bone. So the sphenoid bone anchors everything together. Here inside the sphenoid bone, we've got the greater and lesser wing. So the greater wing is this larger one, lesser, smaller. So in Latin, greater means bigger, lesser means smaller or less important. And then right here in the middle, we've got the hypophyseal fossa, also known as the sella turcica. This is where the pituitary gland sits. Any other questions on these structures? No, that's it.
Are there any core questions or core things to focus on for Tuesday's quiz?
Any of the stuff I just covered can and will be on the quiz.
Okay.
Yeah, but how did you say it was the Corinian? Or the one of the Forminian?
Oh, so we've got the jugular, carotid, and foramen magnum. Yeah, carotid, for the carotid artery. So that's the artery that provides blood to the brain, which we'll learn about in detail when we learn about the blood and cardiovascular system.